within the week that the story broke, and we were kind of like mocking the media's treatment of Monica Lewinsky,
right.
the story, who I knew from a fairly, very innocent date, like in December, right before the story broke.
So you had coincidentally gone on a date with Monica Lewinsky, and then this thing broke.
Yeah.
How wild.
That was freaky.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. These infamous words, uttered by President Bill Clinton in 1998, would forever link Monica Lewinsky's name to one of the most explosive political scandals in American history. But before she became a household name, before the blue dress and the Star Report, Monica Lewinsky was just a young woman trying to make her way in Washington. It was during this time, in December 1997, that her path crossed with Jake Tapper, then an up-and-coming journalist who later became a prominent CNN anchor. Today we'll look into a fascinating story of their dinner date, a seemingly ordinary encounter that would take on extraordinary significance in light of subsequent events. A chance encounter in the Capitol. On a chilly December night in 1997, the bustling streets of Washington, D.C. set the stage for an unexpected meeting. Jake Tapper, then a young journalist making his way in the competitive world of political reporting, found himself at a local bar for a going-away party. Little did he know that this ordinary evening would lead to an encounter that would later be scrutinized in the context of one of the most significant political scandals in history. It was here that Tapper first laid eyes on Monica Lewinsky, a 24-year-old former White House intern. Their initial interaction was unremarkable, the kind of meeting that happens countless times in bars. Tapper, engrossed in a game of pool, found himself short a quarter. It was Lewinsky who stepped forward, offering the coin with a smile that Tapper later described as about nothing in particular. This small act of kindness caught his attention, though. In a city often characterized by its cutthroat ambition and political maneuvering, Lewinsky's simple gesture stood out. The lead up to the date.
Yes, I have to disclose, full disclosure, in tonight's episode, our G-rated date from December 1997.
Our one date.
Our one date.
In the days that followed, Tapper and Lewinsky engaged in a series of phone conversations. The calls were casual and friendly, painting a picture of two young professionals getting to know each other in the nation's capital. Lewinsky, according to Tapper's later recollections, came across as polite and understanding, even when plans to meet up fell through due to conflicting schedules. During these conversations, she shared she was in the process of leaving her job at the Pentagon. She expressed a desire to move to New York and live with her mother, citing the demanding nature of her current position as a personal assistant to the Deputy Defense Secretary. This detail, seemingly insignificant at the time, later took on new meaning in light of the scandal that was about to unfold. The date. Finally, after a few failed attempts, Tapper and Lewinsky managed to coordinate their schedules for a dinner date. The venue was Roxanne, a Tex-Mex restaurant where Tapper's brother had once worked as a waiter. It was Tuesday, December 23, 1997. Tapper's recollections of the evening, as detailed in his 1998 Washington City paper article, paint a picture of a remarkably ordinary first date. Lewinsky, he noted, defied the stereotype of the calorie-counting D.C. woman, joining him in appetizers and ordering an entree of her own. They both had a couple of drinks, beer for her, bourbon for him. Their conversation covered typical first date territory. Lewinsky shared details about her background, her upbringing in Los Angeles, her education at Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, and her journey to Washington, D.C. Tapper noted her close relationship with her mother and the hint of family money in her background. What stood out to Tapper was Lewinsky's demeanor. Unlike some of the quote-unquote really important D.C. career women he had dated before, Lewinsky showed genuine interest in his responses, peppering her own story with questions about his life and experiences. She struck him as, quote, cheerful, open, a bit too much of a resident of planet Happy in his, quote, acerbic view. Importantly, he emphasized that the name of President Clinton never came up during their conversation. Their discussion of her past relationships did not include any hint of the scandal that was about to break. The evening's end and reflections.
And it was wild, yeah, because I knew the girl, and she was this nice girl, and at the time, remember...
Still is, by the way.
She's a great girl,
yeah.
A great woman, and
yes.
At the time, remember, the Clinton White House was saying she was lying. She was lying, and I was like, I believe her.
The date concluded with what Tapper described as a very innocent goodbye. There were no fireworks, no hint of the storm that was about to break. It was, by all accounts, a perfectly ordinary first date between two young professionals in Washington, D.C. In his reflection, Tapper noted he found Lewinsky pleasant without being overwhelming. He appreciated her sense of style in a city not known for its fashion sense, describing her as a great dresser who wore a black 70s number that was not in the slightest bit revealing or inappropriate. Tapper's overall impression was of a sweet girl who was nice. He even considered the possibility of a second date, a thought that would soon be overshadowed by the unfolding events of history. The calm before the storm. In the weeks following their date, life continued as normal for both Tapper and Lewinsky. Tapper went on vacation, set up a new apartment, and in the process of cleaning, inadvertently threw out Lewinsky's phone number. This small, mundane detail serves as a poignant reminder of how ordinary their interaction had been. These weeks represented a calm before the storm. She was, as far as Tapper could tell, simply a young woman looking forward to the next chapter of her life, unaware she was about to become the center of a national scandal. The scandal breaks.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
In January 1998, the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal broke, thrusting Monica Lewinsky in the center of a media frenzy and a national conversation about power, politics, and morality. The young woman Tapper had shared a pleasant evening with just weeks before was suddenly the subject of intense scrutiny and often cruel public judgment. Tapper, like the rest of the nation, watched as the story unfolded. His unique position as someone who had recently interacted with Lewinsky on a personal level gave him a perspective few others in the media had. Tapper's article. In the midst of media frenzy, Tapper made the decision to write about his date with Lewinsky. His article, published in the Washington City paper in 1998, stood out for its humanizing portrayal of Lewinsky at a time when much of the media coverage was less than kind. Tapper's piece, titled "I Dated Monica Lewinsky," with the subheading, "Beyond the tawdriest of headlines, there's a woman I wouldn't mind bringing home to mom," offered a counterpoint to the salacious narratives dominating the news cycle. In the article, Tapper grappled with the surreal experience of seeing someone he had personally interacted with become a central figure in such a massive news story. He wrote, quote, "It's as if my buddy Joe's unconfirmed, unsubstantiated, off-the-record barroom trash talk went right to the front pages of the Old Gray Lady and the rest." Tapper's portrayal of Lewinsky emphasized her normalcy, her ambition, and her kindness. He described her as, quote, "like a lot of young women inside the Beltway, only more so. Young, ambitious, and looking for next, seeking a place to land, searching for that one friendly face in the crowd who will think she's worth talking to." This perspective provided a stark contrast to the often dehumanizing coverage Lewinsky was receiving in much of the media. Tapper's article served as a reminder that behind the headlines and political maneuvering was a real person, caught in circumstances that had spiraled far beyond her control. The impact of the scandal.
It wasn't considered a victim back then, and I dance around the victim language a lot. But I think what's really important to remember in today's world is that we never should have even gotten to a place where consent was a question.
As the scandal unfolded, its impact reached far beyond Lewinsky and President Clinton. It dominated news cycles, sparked intense political debates, and ultimately led to Clinton's impeachment by the House of Representatives in December 1998. For Lewinsky, the scandal was life-altering. She became a household name overnight, subjected to intense public scrutiny and often vicious criticism. The young woman Tapper had met, who was looking forward to starting a new chapter of her life in New York, instead found herself at the center of a political and media firestorm. Years of silence and reclaiming the narrative. In the years following the scandal, Lewinsky largely retreated from public life. She pursued a master's degree in social psychology at the London School of Economics and tried to build a life away from the spotlight. It wasn't until 2014 that she broke her silence, writing an essay for Vanity Fair titled "Shame and Survival." In it, she reflected on her experiences and the long-lasting impact of the scandal, positioning herself as an anti-bullying activist and advocating for a more compassionate internet culture. A television reunion. In October 21, their paths crossed again. Lewinsky appeared as a guest on Tapper's CNN show, The Lead with Jake Tapper, to promote the FX series Impeachment: American Crime Story, which she produced. During the interview, they addressed their shared history with good humor. Tapper opened the segment by saying, "First of all, Monica, yes, I have to disclose. Full disclosure, in tonight's episode, our G-rated date from December 1997 is portrayed." Lewinsky, laughing, interjected to clarify it was their one date. Now it's time to hear from you. How do you think media coverage of political scandals has changed since the Clinton-Lewinsky affair? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.